Herbert Heitmann.
Many products fail because they're not proposing anything.
Quite stylish as a designer. I expect nothing less.
This is why Apple products feel like Apple products.
You know that you're suggesting the right thing to...
No, I don't. You have to figure out a way on how to make decisions. And part of my job is in helping my clients find those unknowns that they don't know, when the AI is going to be able to connect different dots and create a third conclusion. My first job, give clarity to my team.
Hello everybody and welcome to the fifth and final episode of the second edition of our post-time project. It's another great day for a great discussion because today we're going to talk about the importance of a design system for your business, the current trends in the design industry, and how to spark creativity in your team. Enjoy! Hello everyone and welcome to our cozy little studio here. This time I'm going to have a conversation with the lead designer of Song Design that is part of Accenture, a former judge of DevChallenge and Geekly.us, a person with who I'm sure I'm going to have a great time here today. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Herbert Heitmann.
Nice to see you, man.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for traveling all the way from Berlin for this discussion that we're going to have.
My pleasure.
And luckily we have some good weather here in Warsaw, so let's bring that sunshine here into the studio. Okay, so you're originally from Brazil.
Yes.
You grew up there. Give me a little background. How long you've been living there? When did you move to Germany?
Yeah, born and raised in Brazil. I was there until I was like 32, and then I moved to Germany to doing my master's, and I've been in Germany now for 11 years. It's been quite a long time.
Yeah? Huge cultural shock, I guess, or not really?
I have, as you can see, I have I have German ancestry, and it's a combination of actually many different ancestries. But in any case, I have German ancestry, and in Brazil, I studied in a German school. Mm-hmm. So I had contact with German culture quite a bit.
Okay.
So moving to Germany was not that much of a shock. But then again, it is, right? So even the small things, when they add up while you stay there like for a long period of time, then you start really feeling like the small things that just pull you here and there in different directions that you're not expecting. But it's a great experience.
Nice.
I loved it.
And for how long you've been in this design world, so to speak?
Ooh, it's been now a bit over 20 years that I've been designing. Yeah.
So quite the experience.
A little bit all over the place. But then again, this is what prepared me to what I do right now. Was the fact that I had experiences in many different fields of design with different concerns, different outcomes as well. And so that's an integral part of what I do now. It's just combining all those things.
Nice. Our questions right now are also all over the place. We're going to cover some different topics, design topics, some questions on a personal level, your experience in Germany and in Brazil. Imagine that you're speaking basically to a design dummy. That's not in this world. And I also would like to learn, we would like to bring some value to our viewers. And I'm sure that we're going to do that with this lottery game-like question form that we have here in my little studio. So basically every colorful bowl is filled with a different question.
All right.
You shuffle, pick a question, give it to me, I read it out loud, and we begin the discussion.
All right, that
sounds good.
Fun. Yeah,
Let's do it.
So,
Nice. Starting with the blue.
Thank
you. Let's see what the first question is for Herbert. Okay. Is it important for a business to follow a single design system, and why?
Yes, it is. It is vital.
Vital?
Yes, because it's about how you are perceived. In the end, the design system is going to, it's how the world will perceive you in a way. It's like your appearance of sorts. But also it can go as deep as to tell the world how you organize yourself or how you organize your product. And this is why Apple products feel like Apple products or Google products feel like Google products. It's the design system that defines that, not the functionalities. So the design system is really how you present your product to a user. So absolutely essential. And obviously it's an ambassador to the brand that you are creating. So that's how important it is.
Is that what you're focusing on in the beginning of the project?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes you already have like some design system in place, and then your job is to follow that design system and correct the things that are not correct. So it's a living document, basically. You keep on improving it. And of course, you're going to have cycles where you're going to have some major changes happening, but that's not what you're aiming at having. What you aim at having is stability in your design system so that you can implement it coherently across all your products.
Have you ever had situation thus far in your professional experience where you've had to make drastic changes? You started with one design.
Well, that's super common. Super common. Because especially when you're dealing with products that deal with state-of-the-art technologies and whatnot. So the language that you need to apply to whatever you are using or developing is essential. So and it's going to change, and it's going to need to be adapted to the use and how it's being used. So that evolution of design systems is something that is constant. So whenever I get to a project, definitely one of the first questions, if the thing that I'm going to be designing is a product that has to obey a design system, the very first question that I need to ask is whether there is a design system in place. If there is not, there's definitely a concern that I'm going to have, and ideally I'm implementing a design system together with all the designs that I do.
Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Have another one. So we started with blue. Let's see what you're going to continue with.
I'm going with the green.
The color of energy. Much like your shoes, which I really like, by the way.
Yeah, I love them.
Quite stylish as a designer. I expect nothing less. You have been designing for almost 20 years, as you mentioned in the beginning. Do you have an example of a challenging project which you worked on that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, many. There are many different challenges that you can face in a design project, and so they bring you different types of pride onto what you have done. So I can name at least a couple. Like one, for instance, that the challenge was that client didn't have that much budget to really invest on this project. This was an exhibit for astrophysics school.
Okay.
And I'm a bit of a nerd, so I love the topic, and I really jumped into
astrophysics enthusiast.
I'm crazy about those things. So so I jumped into the project, and the thing is, as I said, little money, so little support. Ended up that something that is not necessarily too complicated, instead of lasting a couple of months, it lasted an entire year. Given their budget and the budget that they gave me, I was basically working for free. So that in itself is a challenge, but I loved the topic so much that I wanted to do something cool.
It was a passion project, let's say.
It was a passion project. So having it done was an accomplishment and something that I was really proud of. And it was supposed to be like a very quick exhibit, and it ended up being an almost permanent exhibit that they had there. So I was really, really happy about that. So all those time crunches are fun. But then again, okay, maybe a different type of challenge would be in having to figure out very, very quickly what your client is trying to say and communicate, and translate that into requirements that you then build on top of. I had a few projects that were like that. I had one where I had 1 month to do this this tool or a proposal for a digital tool, and we were so pressed in time that job that was supposed to last for an entire month, we did in 1 week.
Okay.
But that was great. Like we got a lot of recognition for doing that. But then we continue doing what needed to be done. And I think that this is something that I like doing in my projects, in where I fulfill the initial request in a way. But then I expand on that.
Yeah.
Because usually what we have is like, we have certain things that we know, we have certain things that we know that we don't know. And those usually are the two aspects that we put into a request for a project.
Yeah.
But there are many unknown unknowns in there. And part of my job is in helping my clients find those unknowns that they don't know.
Okay.
And because these are the things, these are the blind spots that they have. And in fulfilling them, I not only create something that my client was wanting in the beginning, but I create something that my client was needing.
Okay.
But they didn't know. It's really about having this open conversation with the client, and the only challenge for the designer in that aspect, okay, the two challenges that designers are going to be having is, one, it consumes a lot of time, obviously, having this communication, so it's an effort. And second, it's you have to be able to let go of your ego in relation to the project. So if you misunderstood something, you have to be able to backtrack that and say, okay, I was wrong.
Okay.
This is what you actually meant. But yes, okay, then you move on. And that is great. So you take away your emotion from, or at least that part of your emotions from your project. So your ego and that extravagant pride that you have on that, and you start thinking of actually what you are accomplishing with your client, and then you start taking pride on that instead of what you accomplished by yourself.
Yeah.
And so the relationship becomes a lot easier. Communications usually go a lot smoother. And the end product is usually a far better reflection of what is needed.
Maybe you know that you're suggesting the right thing, and he still...
No, I don't. I know that's a good thing that they're putting there. I actually don't know if I'm suggesting the right thing. And it's not my point, it's not my job to start suggesting from the beginning, especially from the beginning. My job is to listen.
Yeah.
And listen and reflect back. And you start this conversation when I'm just reflecting back what you've just said to me, just to make sure that I understood it correctly. And you, when I'm reflecting back, you have to understand what I just said. And sometimes this changes even your perspective on what you have just said. And so in this conversation, you already start shaping things up, and things start changing. Things start changing a little bit. And it's in following those changes that you get to the right answer. And so how to deal with a complicated client? You have to figure out a way on how to make decisions. This is what's most important. You have to help your client to achieve a clear vision of what they need to accomplish, first of all. Then you have to understand what is the culture that you're talking to. And I mean not only the country that you're in, but the company that you're working for, or the person that you're talking to. What are the intrinsic rules that exist there that you need to respect? And those things you can get into an agreement with your client. And it's just a matter of you putting things on the table, saying that this is what we need to agree on. So let's have a vision. Let's have a set of priority and rules that we need to follow. And then after that, all decisions that you make will have to reflect that. We'll have to reflect those rules that you have defined, and we'll have to push you towards the vision that you're trying to accomplish. If you're not doing that, then you know that you have the wrong choice. So it's that's what you do.
Want to move on with the next one?
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Orange this time. What areas of responsibility and tasks do you have as a lead design manager in your company? Where to begin?
Where to begin? Where to begin? So, in a project, different leads will have different ways of addressing this, but my way of addressing it is that as lead of a project, my first job is to be the guardian of the vision of that of that project. So I'm the one who is going to be helping the team in not straying away from what needs to be done. So that's my first job, give clarity to my team, to make sure that my team is okay. In a consultancy, you're going to be pressured from every direction for you to deliver quickly, deliver perfectly, deliver it in the first try. And that's not usually the case because the process itself doesn't allow that. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go through a process that allows you to explore the topic in a comprehensively enough so that you can address it well enough, and then you truly respond to the request from the client. And this needs the team working in good conditions. And so all this pressure coming from all sides, I'm going to be filtering. And it's part of my job to filter that. So sometimes it comes from my own company, sometimes it comes from my client. Let's have a meeting and whatnot, or let's have a meeting every day, end of the day. And it's my job to say, no, that doesn't make sense because I already have meetings set up for discussing what needs to discuss. My team needs their time to work as well. We cannot always be communicating. So striking that balance is part of my works within a project. But then my work as a lead doesn't stop within the project. So outside the project, I have the duty to also teach within my studio. So talking to my colleagues and share my knowledge, and also help them share their knowledge as well, and try and promote their growth in whichever direction I think it should go. So I'm responsible for a couple of people within my studio to help them grow within the company, and it's my job to see what is the best path for them, or help them figuring out what's the best path for them in relation to what they want to do, and in relation to in comparison to what the company wants to have done. And so there's a lot that needs to be done. It's a very active position,
of course,
and it's nice that you're, at least in my case, I'm stuck right in between the more managerial part of things, the bureaucratic side of things, and the action part of things, where things are, the sausage is being made.
How do you decide how to distribute the workflow?
When I come to a project and I see what needs to be done, I also need to define what needs to be done. And then I have the liberty to see who is going to be answering those requirements best. And then talking to them and seeing, I have this task. How do you feel about this task? I want to take it. Or no, I don't want to take it. And then see how it fits. So it's a conversation again. As much as I can, I give the people who are working with me the tasks that would give them the most joy.
I also assume room for growth as well, some challenge.
That is always going to be the thing that brings more joy. At least with the people I work with, they're very professional and competitive, so they like doing proper work.
They enjoy being in uncomfortable positions, let's say, where they're gonna feel a little bit growth.
They enjoy doing good work.
Okay.
So if I give them a challenging task, but a task that they can solve, that's golden. So that's what I try to do. I keep them slightly uncomfortable, because that's the learning position, right? You're slightly uncomfortable.
Perfect.
And keep pushing them. I myself am a generalist. As I said before, I've done many types of design. I've done many types of products, and I work in many different environments. So for me, or it was for me, the right path for me to continue this generalization and continue broadening my scope as much as I could, but getting deep into a few topics. So I see myself more as a W kind of person, but and I think that I'm really good at helping people who are in this position as well. Not to say that I cannot help someone who wants to be more of a specialist, but at some point the specialist will want to do things more in a particular way, or they have their own ways of doing things, and yeah, I think it's we need to have space for both. You need to have people who know really a lot about what they're doing, and you need to have people who have a more contextual vision of what needs to be done. And a project is good when you have both of them in there, so you can truly use their powers in order to get to your final objective.
Wonderful. Hello guys, I have a special task for the most loyal post-time viewers. I need you to count how many times has our brand name, Infopulse, been mentioned during the whole second season. Whoever gets this right will receive a special secret box from me at the end of the year. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Wow. Quite the difficult task you have, my friend. Okay. May I call you Herbs?
Please do.
I love it.
Everyone calls me Herbs.
Really?
I'm introduced professionally as Herbs.
Herbs?
Yes.
Herbs Heitmann.
Just Herbs.
With the
But
green
this
shoe.
is Herbert, but call him Herbs.
And how is it in Brazil?
It's anything goes. Anything remotely resembling my name, I know they're asking me. They're calling me, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna touch the Brazilian aspect right now, a little bit. You studied architecture in Brazil, then graduated from an international school of design in Germany. By the way, Infopulse has entities in both of those countries. Just want to throw that in there.
All right.
In Rio and in Frankfurt. Okay, so what is the difference of the educational process in Brazil and in Germany?
Oh, that's a good question. It's very different, and it was a challenge for me. Funny. My school of architecture actually based its classes on the Bauhaus philosophy. And the whole point of Bauhaus philosophy was actually they wanted to create architects there. And they thought that the architect was the ultimate expression of an artist. And so they wanted to teach everything related to how you create, or everything related to creativity as a ways of building up like the perfect architect, as someone who knows about painting and sculpture and objects and spaces and so forth. So my school was very much like that and very much theoretical, but that is like superficially, let's say, similar to what you would find elsewhere in Germany. What I felt was truly different, and I can only speak about my own experience and my own school, but what I felt was that in Brazil we were pushed towards experimentation.
Okay.
So if I put it like an effort, like a line like this, and I'm pushing like this, my school would come and continue pushing. In doing that, I'll go very fast and I'll reach places very quickly, and many times very wrongly. So I would do lots of mistakes, and I would get to that end space with a very imperfect solution, but maybe very advanced solution.
Okay.
In Germany, I was going like this, and my school did this. Why? Because they wanted me to be sure of what I was talking about.
Okay.
They wanted me to really know what I was talking about. So they kept challenging everything. So in my master's, it felt like building an entire mountain just so that I can make one point in that apex of the mountain. While in Brazil, it's more like branching and going as fast as possible. Brazil, in my school in Brazil. So that's what I felt was very different.
Okay.
And that was quite challenging because I was not used to being challenged that much and needed to prove my point so thoroughly. So when I got there, my intention was to do something very practical for my master's. Ended up being extremely theoretical.
Okay.
It became like a massive book. So that was quite interesting. It was quite good as well. taught me a lot on how to speak in English, because I really needed to defend my ideas. And I needed to defend it like really well. I had really good teachers and supervisors. They were very challenging.
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm super proud of what I've done there, and I learned a lot.
Which aspect do you prefer more? A little bit the way in Brazil where they gave you the freedom to branch out and to make mistakes, but still...
You have to have both, man. You
Yeah.
have to have both. I think that there's space in the school for you to have both. As I was doing a master's, this is a lot more focused, so it was okay having this singular perspective, but I would say ideally we would have both of them.
Yeah.
Ideally, you are both pushed to go further than you think that you might get to. And at the same time, you need to be taught how to explain what you're doing and how to justify what you're doing, to see whether you're right or wrong. And this is already in the beginning of that training of how to get your ego away from what you're doing, because you're going to be challenged. People are going to have different opinions, and most probably they're going to know a lot more than you do, especially when you're a student. So you need to be able to get that and transform into something positive again.
Yeah. So initially in Brazil, you navigated towards architecture, correct? Or no? You did a slight change from something to architecture, or was that initially the plan to start with architecture?
I went to architecture was not my first school. So after I left high school, I started studying physics. That was kind of a stepstone to the course that I actually wanted to take. It's called like molecular sciences, which is like...
Oh, so you're in the science world?
Yes. Yes. It was math, physics, chemistry, and biology, really high levels.
Yeah.
It was meant for me to become a scientist, a researcher, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. But math, it was just was my death. So from there, and various experiences in my life, I decided to go to something more creative, because I also had that in me. I had many choices to make there, and so I decided to go to the opposite side of that. So I went to something more creative. And in architecture school, what I wanted was like really the breadth of what I could study there. There's so much that you can learn within architecture, like lighting, ergonomics, the space itself. And it's not only the house, but as I studied urbanism as well, it's like how cities are built and distributed. So there's just so much to explore there. And so in the beginning, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be an architect or I'm going to be an urbanist. What I thought was that I'm going to just soak it in.
Yeah.
And then I had my first experience working as an architect, and it was not the greatest experience. It was hard. It was hard. Architects really deserve a lot of credit, because it's such a hard job. And I wanted a little bit more creative freedom. So
the design aspect of architecture brought you into design?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In creating objects, in then displaying the objects, and then communicating about objects. Then I started really liking graphic design.
Okay.
As I also had like a penchant for photography and painting and whatnot. So it made perfect sense for me to move into that. So I started right away working with graphic design, worked for a couple of studios, and then worked at a magazine as well. That was kind of cool. And when I finished my school, I right away opened my own studio in Brazil, and working mostly with editorial design, branding, and exhibits. So we worked a lot with lots of artists and galleries, art galleries.
Yeah.
And that was super fun. Tough clients, but but fun and beautiful. And you're talking to people who will have their dreams, and it's really nice to do that.
Perfect. I think we can continue with our little rainbow questions. Going back to the blue again.
All right.
Let's see. I'm sensing a loaded question for our guest here. Okay. You cooperate with many departments such as development, marketing, and sales. How do you build cooperation and solve misunderstandings?
It's less about what you cannot do and more about where you can contribute the most or the best. Ideally, you have like a variety of perspectives when you're doing design. And so usually the design department can act as kind of a glue with the other parts. Or at least we try and do that. Especially when working for, like, if you work for a consultancy like I do, if you go to work for a client, usually they have their own silos, and part of our job in every project is in helping mitigating those situations and helping breaking those silos. So in many times we mediate this conversation between all of them. There's no perfect solution, and there's no solution that is going to work 100% of the time. There's always the chance of failure. And we need to, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult, and if you're in the cutting edge of things, you are prone to failures. And so you have to be able to deal with that well, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. There were times that I was unable to find a way to conciliate problems within my project, and a couple of times I excused myself from the project. I was not the right person to help in there. So you have to also know your own limitations. And once you realize that you cannot contribute as much as you would like, step aside, let someone else come in. And this is the benefit of having like a more flatter structure or hierarchy, where you can bring the person who is responding better to the challenge and have this person helping you in that moment. So it doesn't only fall onto me. So I have a whole team helping me doing that, both within the project and outside the project. So I can count on my directors to also intervene if there's some issue that is being difficult to solve. And there's always something that is like hairy to go through. But 95% of the time we find a solution that works for everyone.
Perfectly. Let's move on with the next question. How do you feel thus far?
Super good. Super good. Yes.
Having a nice time?
Yeah. Super relaxed.
Let's do it.
No, it's almost color coded here.
Let's see what we have in the orange bowl. What do you see as the main trends or potentially successful modern tools/technologies in the design industry, and how do you use them in your work?
Well,
what is the modern landscape, let's say?
There are things that are in place already that we're using. There are things that are going to come in place in the future, and we're going to start using them then. Things that we're using now. There was a big shift in the tools that we use from like 20 years ago to now, where in the past those tools were more concerned in giving you the possibility to do anything, and right now the tools are focusing on helping you to do what you need to do. So probably one of the most popular tools right now is Figma for doing design, especially for digital tools, because one, it helps you being like really efficient in your work, because the tool is constantly helping you to do what you need to do. So instead of you having to do yourself menial jobs, the tool does it by itself. And the second thing is, and I think it's the most important part, is that the fact that you can work with other people on the same document at the same time. This allows for an extreme level of collaboration. And we gained efficiency like so much in having that, because versioning of files is such a complicated thing. And in the past you'd have like those infinite structures for keeping your files in order and knowing what is the latest information that you need to work with and whatnot. So I remember in the past you had final in the names of your files, final B, Rio Final BC.
Or putting your name initials.
It's like horrible. As soon as you put final in your title, you know that's not the final.
Yeah.
So that changed quite a bit. So the document itself became a lot less constrained about having to be worked locally. And as we're working in the cloud and we're working together on the same file, this leads to immense levels of collaboration and efficiency. But this is what we have now. What is coming in the future that has everything to do with AI. So lots of designers are really raising their eyebrows when discussing AI now, because for many designers it's really scary.
Yeah.
What is AI doing? AI is doing the brunt work that designers / artists used to do. I heard that we shouldn't be afraid of that because AI is doing the common sense thing. The thing is that 90% of the work is commonsensical.
Okay.
So that leads, I would say, that puts a lot of pressure on designers to think, okay, what am I going to be doing 5 years time? Actually, I'll say even less, 2 years time.
3 years time. 2 years time.
Yeah, it's evolving so incredibly fast
Yeah.
that it's impossible to predict. But my own perspective right now on the topic is that where AI is really good at the mechanical part of creation, AI is not really good at understanding the context of that. So,
AKA the human aspect, let's say.
exactly. So it's the human experience that is going to be dictating design work. It already does. But as I said, a lot of the work that is done is that brunt mechanical work.
Yeah.
And we are really lucky when we can focus on the human aspect of it. But this is going to become more and more and more important, because the easy stuff is going to be easy to do. And the more complex stuff is going to require people who are very much in tune with how to do research, with how to listen, with how to collaborate, with how to aggregate those different experiences and translate that into something usable and something desirable. So I believe that as web designers came and went, and they needed to write HTML and they needed to write CSS, and that's completely almost a thing of the past now. It's going to be the same, like with designers doing illustrations for the most part, or for doing wireframing or doing simple layouts. For the most part, this is going to be done automatically, and it's in where you bring your design system, as we were talking previously. So what is the language that you're talking through? I don't know, how are you conveying your information, and how are you enabling functionalities through your understanding of how people work? That is going to be, I think, the next focus for designers.
Yeah.
And this is where, so far, there's no substitute for.
And now, a special question from our design expert at Infopulse.
Hello, my name is Andrii Chetvertak. I am head of design at Infopulse. I have questions for you. How do you measure the success of your team and product design? What practical and abstract KPIs did you implement in your team? Thank you.
What is a measure of success? Well, there are many aspects of success that you need to take a look into. You can have a very successful project where you deliver a very successful product, and your team is completely in shambles. Is this a success story? And the other way around also can happen. So what is success is very relative.
Okay.
And again, it's something that you get into agreement with. So this question of what kind of metric should I look into to see how successful am I? So you're going to have the different, as I said, the different aspects of success. So you say my product or the product that I've just designed. For it to be successful, it has to have like this this reach. It needs to be completed by this time, and it needs to be used by this number of people and whatnot. So there are many KPIs for product that can be applied, and you can just investigate and make sure that you are hitting those targets. In regards to people, that's more difficult to define. So one of the things that I do in every project is having, well, you have your daily rituals, right? So when talking to your designers every day, you can measure their emotional state.
Yeah.
And not only in relations to the project itself, but in relations to all aspects in their life. So very beginning of every day of work, it starts with the question, okay, from 0 to 10, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
And you have this small conversation, and this allows us to track our emotional state throughout the project. And by the end of the project, we can have a session where we go through our emotional curve through that and see everything that we have learned, everything that we have gone through, reevaluate all of that. You need to see how satisfied people are, how their emotional curves were. It's also not good, even if you start a project well and you end the project well, but in the middle was a disaster.
Exactly.
That's lots to learn in there. So you have to go through and see that. So there are ways of capturing it. There are ways of having visibility of that. But the most important thing is to try and track and respond to the status of your team and your colleagues and your stakeholders as well, the best you can. And so always be mindful of what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing and how they're doing.
Yeah.
And try and respect that. At the same time, pushing for what needs to be done. So there aren't any specific metrics that we need to apply. It truly depends on the situation. But to me, the most important part is for it to also not be bogged down by that. Bureaucracy exists to help you organize things so that you can, you have a stable ground for you to grow from. If bureaucracy is the ceiling of what you're doing and is just preventing you from actually doing what you need to do and preventing you from performing in the way that you need to perform, not in terms of only in quality, but also in terms of your emotional state, then that's a problem. So how you define those metrics also have to take into consideration what is the impact of having X many KPIs for you to follow, so that you can call yourself or call your project a success. Success is a relative term, and we need to treat it like so, and just agree what success means to the entirety of the team, and then try and chase that.
I think we answered our expert.
Hopefully.
What do you think?
Hopefully.
Let's do it. Let's move on. Question for our specialist here. The first acquaintance of consumer with a product occurs through its design. What basic rules of product design do you follow to quickly attract a potential customer?
The first rule that you need to follow is know your customer.
Know your customer.
That's the one and only rule. That's basically it. Know your customer. Okay, no, that's not basically it. There's something else. You have to propose something. I believe that many products fail because they're not proposing anything. Even if they follow what their users are saying, many times they don't have anything in them to really set them apart of everything else. So I think you need those two components. You need to know your customer, but also you need to be able to propose something.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're going to propose something that is seemingly contradicting what your user actually wants. Seemingly. but not really. So the famous example of Henry Ford around the cars is that if he would ask his users, they would tell him that they just wanted faster horses. So that is the real trick that we do, is in hearing, oh, I want faster horses, and translating that, I want to get to the places faster. So you have to stick to one thing at some point. But this is where we try and figure out what is the minimum set of requirements that I need to complete. And then you do that, and you test things out.
Yeah.
You see how people respond to that, and you continue improving on that. So overall, nowadays, design is a process that has no end. And a product is not a static thing, especially digital products. They are all about continuous development. And so you're constantly going back to your users to see how they are reacting to the same product that you have just shown them and they loved, but then the next day they don't love it anymore, and they need to figure out why. And so this is something that is ongoing.
Understood. Perfect. Let's move on with our next question. See what the rainbow has in store for us. Thank you, sir. So, you participated as a judge at the DevChallenge and Geekly.us competitions. Tell us about your experience and how you got involved in judging.
Well, I got involved in judging by being invited to judge, honestly. But I it's not about judging. It's about, I think, giving feedback.
Yeah.
That is more fun. So yeah, I started doing that, and for the DevChallenge, it was just something, an invite that came last year. This year I was invited again. I was super happy to participate.
Yeah.
Because you learn at a different level when you start kind of evaluating and teaching, right? Because you have to see so much more, so that you can have multiple perspectives just by yourself of one single thing. So as much as it's a challenge for the people participating in those competitions, like to get and try and win those competitions, it's also a challenge for the people evaluating them to be able to absorb so much and so many different answers to the same question and give meaningful feedback to all of them. And I think that in evaluating them, I'm also evaluating my knowledge of the topic. And so it's super interesting. It's super fun to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's super fun.
Rewarding. Any memorable works of participants that really stood out to you and you decided to implement them into your own future project or something like that?
I cannot steal ideas from the people.
Interpret or paraphrase.
There was a different type of inspiration, let's put it like that. Like for the DevChallenge, I got in touch with so many people and participants from Ukraine.
Okay.
And at this moment in time, it's inspiring to see their work. And obviously, like, what they've done was all related to their predicament.
Yeah.
But it's inspiring to see like how clever you can be in solving some I don't know, some unknown challenge there. And I've seen like so many clever answers to that, on how to document stuff, how to share stuff, how to make stuff visible. That was really
Nice.
fun.
Perfect. Let's move on to our last question. What do you think about the AI generated content and how might it affect the design industry as a whole? What AI features or capabilities do you think should be included in the user interface to make it user friendly?
Well,
We talked a bit about
we talked
AI.
a little bit about
Can
this.
expand a little bit more?
Yes. What is going to be very helpful for designers having the current generation of AI tools and the next generation as well is in how it's going to expedite our thinking. So even in capturing what the client is saying, it can be like a very helpful tool for you to start this collaboration with the client right away. So imagine that if I'm talking to you, you are my client, and I'm talking to you, and you start saying what you want, and I start thinking of it, and as I mentioned, I generally ping it back to you to see if I'm understanding it correct.
Yeah.
Now imagine if I can start inputting what you're telling me as queries for me to create something, either a text or an image on AI. And I start creating that. And I start placing this right in front of you. And we immediately start pinpointing all those aspects with a very high fidelity and high quality in there. So it just makes the thinking process a lot quicker, and you can put things on paper a lot quicker as well. So that is definitely the most beneficial aspect right now for designers in the existence of those tools. Obviously, there's the fear of being substituted, but as a tool right now, fantastic for us to like go through prototyping really quickly, go through experimenting really quickly, go testing, and then implement things. So it's going to make things a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Where AI is going to be really interesting is in right now, AI is being used in a way of like how you present information. So if you ask the AI to create a text, it will create a text on the topic that you have mentioned and you have requested. If you ask the AI to create an image, it's going to create an image based on your request in there. What is going to be more interesting in the future is when the AI is going to be able to connect different dots and create a third conclusion from a third item from that.
Yeah.
Where you say, I have this and I have that. What does that mean together? And the AI can give you an answer, an exploration of what that can mean. And then you can imagine having AIs with different personalities giving you different answers, so that you can explore things quickly. So I think that this is where it can go still without that much fuss. It's more about connecting the capability of generating something with all existing databases, and truly enabling the AI to fetch that information, transform it somehow to present you in a way that is already a digestion of what happened there, and not just a different way of portraying information.
And are you a friend of, not a friend, sorry, are you a fan of that maybe future feature that AI can have to connect the dots? Because I think this is what you do now when you're speaking, when you're speaking to a client, you know, he might need something, but he doesn't know it yet. You're helping him get there.
Oh, that's still far further ahead. It's slightly different, where I need to figure out what is the hidden element in there. And what I'm saying right now is that the AI doesn't need to figure out that hidden element.
Okay.
You can give different elements and have the AI combining it. So you can, for instance, you can say that, imagine the following. You have a situation where effort from a team is increasing, and we know that it's going to increase because you have like more work coming. And at the same time, you have information that that specific group is not doing really well. They are they're close to a burnout or something like this. And this is the analysis that we are used to making. So AI so far has been used in order to generate those informations that I look and make this analysis and say, oh, there's a risk in here. But this is fairly easy to do. And this is where we can have AI combined with algorithms that do this type of analysis to come up with a digested set of informations based on those two things. So it's in combining those things, which happens already. Like it already happens. Like search engines already do that. It combine a lot of things together in order to display you something, but it's not digesting that. And the AI comes and in a way humanizes it or displays this in a way that it's easier for you to digest that information as well. So you're not only seeing a number, you're not only seeing a bullet point, what you're seeing is an explanation of that analysis. And so when you combine those two things, then you have something that will help you in your decision making and help you being more efficient and more pragmatic as well. So I'm looking forward to having something like that. I would like to start implementing stuff like that right away. And this is where I really would like to work more with developers, and in particular with developers that have an attitude of like, how can I make this happen? So I think it's because we're creating the stuff. We only need to be a little bit more ambitious.
Gotcha.
And then continue pushing, and we can get to that stage.
Understood. That's enough of AI, I think. That's the end with the colorful balls.
All right.
But I do have a question from me, my own personal question.
Shoot.
You came here via train, 6-hour ride for Berlin. Why did you decide to take the train? You're afraid of flying like me? Or there's another particular reason?
No, I love flying. I really do love flying. But as of a rule right now, I don't fly, especially in short distances like that, because I know how impactful this is climate-wise. So I considering that when you think in absolute terms, aviation is like 2-3% of contributing with greenhouse gases. And the thing is, it's less than 10% of the world population that actually have ever flown.
Yeah.
And it's a far smaller number in the world that flies regularly. Imagining that this small percentage of the world population is contributing that much, 2-3%, but it's globally, it's insane. It's a huge impact. It's obviously not the only thing I do. I still eat meat, but I do eat a lot less than I used to, substituted quite a bit. So yeah, I love flying. I flew quite a bit, but nowadays I think that the best I can do to avoid that and truly see this as not even as a privilege. I don't think that flying is a privilege anymore.
Really?
No, flying is a burden. It's a burden on everyone that is not flying in particular. So I think that we need to start looking at all those contributing factors for climate change and really take it seriously in thinking that, oh, it's not you're doing just this small thing and not. No, it's in continuing adding those little bit of efforts, but they add up, and they might create the change that we actually need. So in this case, I'm also voting with my wallet, right? So I try and I end up subsidizing systems that I believe are far more eco-friendly than flying. Yeah, it's a burden on me, but then again, it also leads to me looking at my traveling in a different manner.
Yeah.
So when I travel, it's not only about me getting from A to B, but the trip between A to B is also part of my overall travel. And so I can make it fun. I can have stops and use that opportunity to get to know those places that are in between. And to be quite honest, as a trained architect, it's so much more interesting for you to see that connecting issue between the different places. You see the transition and you feel the transition. If you're going from south to north or north to south, then you feel like more humidity or less humidity, colder, warmer, and how the people, how they change when you're from the places that you're passing by. So there's so much more to do and learn instead of just going to a place and especially spending like 5 days and then flying back again, or like destination weddings. Honestly, this thing is not to be celebrated.
Yeah.
So I do take this as something that I can do.
Understood.
Obviously, I do understand that I have a privilege for being able to doing that.
Yeah.
Because funnily enough, can be more expensive not flying than it is flying. So, but it's an investment, really. It's an investment on my clearer conscience, and an investment on something that I believe in.
Wonderful. And it takes open-mindedness, it takes self-awareness as well, and consistency. And I appreciate the fact that you implement those aspects not only in your professional life, but in your personal life as well. So congratulations on that one.
That's the minimum I could do. So now that you have listened to me talk for quite a while, I would like to exchange places with you, and I'll be posing you a challenge, which is how do you see AI helping us in solving our climate catastrophe? Put your comment below, and I'll be reading the comments, and the best comment is going to receive from us a design book for you to enjoy. So I'm hoping to see really good answers below, and I'm excited to read them.
So it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. It really was. Congratulations on everything that you're doing, on the fact that you're a great team leader. You have a great team. You're keeping that team together, and for the fact that you stand by your values and you protect them and you're consistent with them. And to say thank you for you coming here from Berlin. I would like to give you something small, considering the fact that winter is coming. I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan, but just a small little gift for you.
Thank you very much.
To warm you through the cold months.
Thank you very much.
Use it well.
I will.
And drink responsibly. Responsibly.
Do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Absolute pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully we see each other again. And if I'm in Berlin, I'll give you a shout out. If you're in Bulgaria, give me a shout out. Get together again.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.